Hello and welcome to this live webinar, 10 in the morning. So I hope you've had your first cup of coffee already, at least in our time zone over here in Europe. This webinar is on addressable advertising via HbbTV, an important topic reflected by the great interest. We've had 180 people who registered to watch this webinar live. So welcome and good morning to everybody. We've got great speakers for you, all experts in this topic. First of all, we've got Ophélie Boucaud, Principal Analyst at Dataxis, who's going to give you an overview of the deployments across Europe of addressable advertising solutions. Then we've got a true expert on this topic, Peter Neumann, CTO of Addressable TV Initiative, a joint venture set up by Germany's two leading commercial broadcasters. It's a pan-European initiative telling you all about what their plans are and where they're standing at the moment. Last in this part is Johannes Schmidt, General Manager from MIT Expert, a technical service provider in Germany, Munich, who's doing a lot of work for ATVI, who's going to do a deep dive into the technical side of things for addressable advertising solutions. And then we move over to Italy, where Andrea Conte is waiting for us, Director Product Development and Data at Publitalia, a Mediaset company. And we're going to take a look at solutions in Italy. And there's even a big announcement from Andrea coming up because they have just launched a new product and we're going to hear exclusively all about this new Mediaset product. As usual, in the last 15 minutes after the presentations, you have the opportunity to submit questions to our speakers. Please use the question mark button that you see in the corner of the little toolbox to watch this webinar and click on that and submit your questions. And we're going to take a look at those at the end of this session. And before we get started, last formal bit, of course, the presentations represent the views of the presenters and the companies they represent, and not necessarily the views of the HbbTV Association. So let's not waste any more time and get started straight away. Over to you, Ophélie, and we are very keen on hearing from you.
So I'm gonna. All right. I hope everyone can see this. So thank you,
Yes,
Jarn, for the introduction. My name is Ophélie. I work as a principal analyst for Dataxis, which is a research company focusing on media and telecom topics. I've had a big focus on advertising innovations, more specifically, and I wanted to talk to you about the deployment of addressable TV in Europe, its challenges and its perspectives, and especially looking at the HbbTV targeted advertising opportunities. So first, a little bit of a view on the volume. So as you can see on the chart, we'll reach almost 100 million unique households using an HbbTV interface by the end of this year, 97 million to be very precise. So this is growing quite fast as more and more households across the region are getting equipped with smart TVs, and the vast majority of those new TV sets are sold in Europe with HbbTV standards already equipped on it. So according to our estimation, the number of HbbTV reachable households is growing by a 17% compound annual growth rate over the period 2020 to 2026, which means that by the end of 2026, we will reach half of all households across Europe on HbbTV. That's a significant number, 120 million European households. And the four main markets, as you can see on the map, are UK, Germany, Italy, and Spain. Those are the largest in volume of reachable households, almost 70 million across those four markets, and by the end of the year. And it's also where you have the highest penetration, as you can see also the darker colors. If we look more specifically at those four markets, it's also where we've had the best potential to launch addressable advertising on linear TV. The first one was Germany. So advertising campaigns have been rolled out on HbbTV standards quite early on for this market by the two main commercial broadcasters at Sales House, 7.1 Media for ProSieben and RTL at Alliance for RTL. I guess Peter will tell you more about it in a bit. So they have launched commercial offers on HbbTV with addressable capabilities as early as 2016, and with the progressive deployment of HbbTV standards and the deployment also of the size of the park, addressable campaigns have been slowly shifting from legacy L-shaped banners inside the content to seamless dynamic ad insertion with video ad formats. and that has provided publishers the opportunity to sell premium video ad inventories in an addressable ecosystem on the big screen. Then we have Italy and Spain, which are two very strong free-to-air TV markets in Europe, where addressable advertising has been launched in 2016 and 2019 respectively. Mediaset has been driving the initiative in Italy with its head sales house Publitalia, and there also Andrea will tell you more at the end of the interventions. And they expanded the product as well from banners at the start to ad insertion and catch-up video in 2019, and later on linear dynamic ad insertion in 2020. And they also launched in Spain with Pabli España, and as well as their competitor on the commercial broadcast side, Atresmedia Publicidad. And finally, the last to join the crew was the UK market, where YouView, the free-to-air bouquet of TV channel, launched commercial offers on HBB standards at the end of last year with private broadcasters, mostly with ITV. And UK being the largest video ad market in the region, the potential is considerable. First, in terms of audience reach, because according to a statement of YouView CEO published last year, linear still represents over 60% of viewing in the UK. And second, in terms of revenue, as British broadcasters are expected to generate 3.6 billion euros in ad revenues only on linear TV this year, which is making it the largest commercial TV market in Europe still. Now, if we take a look at the other markets, we can explain the sort of delay in terms of HbbTV targeted advertising initiatives in other countries outside of those four. By different factors. So first, HbbTV is not necessarily the technology that was preferred to launch addressable TV solutions, especially in markets where pay TV is quite high and where a large part of connectable set-top boxes is deployed. Addressable TV has rather been launched in partnership with telco and pay TV operators. For example, you can see on the first chart in orange that France, which has a very strong set-top box penetration, was a country that launched segmented TV with all of its four main telcos. Then we also have Belgium, which has launched addressable TV on Proximus and Telenet's platform, and also Portugal, where catch-up TV includes addressable campaigns on cable and IPTV platforms. A second aspect would be the overall penetration of smart TVs, which is lower mostly in Central and Eastern Europe, which also leads to lower reach numbers for HbbTV standards. And finally, the third factor would be the overall size of the national TV advertising markets. Outside of the big five, it's difficult to justify it can be at least difficult to justify the investment in addressable TV solutions, especially in markets where the digitization of ad inventory is still at an early stage. So that's not shown on the map, but that would also be rather Central and Eastern European markets. Nevertheless, we've had quite interesting initiatives that were launched in intermediary markets like Poland and Czech on HbbTV that have been quite successful in the last few years. And finally, I wanted to conclude on the commercial results and perspectives. So as you can see on the first chart of this slide, European broadcasters' revenues are and will increasingly shift towards digital inventories, either on dedicated BVOD platforms through on-demand and linear viewing, or on addressable campaigns that are directly broadcast on TV channels. So the latter are expected to generate 180 million euros this year, and we expect them to take off even further under the impulsion of the UK market in coming years, especially with YouView's new initiatives to reach 275 million euros within the next 2 years. And keep in mind that 90% of the addressable TV revenues on HbbTV are still expected to be generated by those four markets by the end of 2026. Just as a conclusion, the potential brought by HbbTV targetable advertising capabilities is really aligned with European broadcaster strategies, which are to digitalize their ad inventories, to enable premium TV campaigns, and integrate targetable capabilities to mirror what is possible online already for many years, and also to obviously maintain their advertising revenue, especially in a context where there's a stiff competition with streaming platforms and online media. And I will let my fellow panelists talk a little bit more about the technical aspects of it and how HbbTV improvements in terms of standards and the arrival of HbbTV-TA can help scale up the whole market. So Jorn, back to you.
Thank you very much for this overview. Apologies. And I think that's very interesting to see that you're expecting the market to grow. So really interesting figures and interesting look at the markets that you think that have the most potential. And we're going to hear now from one of the market players in one of these key markets that you've just mentioned, which is Germany, Peter Neumann from ATVI. First, a quick look at this company that not maybe everybody has heard of, but I'm sure you've heard of the companies backing this joint venture, and then a few details on where we're standing at the moment. You can already see your presentation, so all the best to you, Peter. We're very keen on hearing your insights.
Okay, thank you, Jörn, for the introduction. Yes, the title of my presentation today is Unifying the Reach for Dynamic Ad Substitution in Linear Broadcast TV, and we will jump directly into the topic. So dynamic ad substitution, or short DAS, has been around for a while. I mean, the HbbTV core spec was good to implement first solutions for the dynamic ad substitution, and it has been proven that HbbTV can do the job. Many companies have developed own DAS solutions in the meantime, so that broadcasters nowadays can select from a variety of offerings. But one is for sure, that everyone who has tried to build such a solution had to recognize that testing devices is mandatory. And this is because the devices do not behave in the same way, but rather differently, especially when it comes to switching from broadcast to broadband and vice versa. So some devices switch really fast in a few hundred milliseconds, others take longer to do that. So broadcasters must provide for takeoff and landing zones in their linear TV program, and that's the downside of that, because this leads to the situation that not every ad in an ad break can be replaced easily. So what's usually done is that either the whole ad break is replaced or single placement opportunities are created that are then exchanged. So both is not ideal, because on the one hand side, if you replace whole ad breaks, then this means that ads that cannot be replaced are to be simulcasted. And in the other scenario where you replace single spots but with a dedicated placement opportunity, then this eats time from your schedule, which you cannot use to show content or other ads. So what's now the added value of HbbTV-TA, which has been the standard, which has been published since a few years, and which is also openly available already for quite some time? Well, it defines in very much detail how to sync the substitution process, and it comes in two parts. And the most important thing to mention here is that the second part also defines performance requirements. So it formally solves the issue of varying device performance between devices. And it should also not be forgotten that there's also the DVB specification, a HbbTV-TA specification, which allows for the development of standard compliant broadcast equipment. And we will hear later today about that, of one particular solution at least. So summarizing, it can be said that the TA spec enables for better accuracy, shorter switching times, and thereby for a frame accurate replacement of the AdWords. Having said that, it is to be recognized that device compliance is a classical issue in the HbbTV ecosystem. So the implementations usually vary between individual TV models. And in addition, when it comes to DVB and HbbTV-TA in particular, the performance requirements are rather demanding. And this requires efforts not only by the manufacturers to implement them, but also by the sock makers, by the browser vendors, and so on. And this is in particularly relevant because there are dozens of TV brands, of course, and multiple TV models every year. So in the end, knowing which devices really work requires testing to ensure a good user experience. And actually the work starts even before you can test the device, because the TA spec is a big one. It has lots of functional requirements. So for CEMs to be able to create a scalable setup, it is essential to know on which aspects to focus. So what are the really relevant parts? And we are convinced that only if a common denominator can be found, one will succeed in the end with harmonizing TA implementations horizontally across different CEMs, brands, and models. So this is exactly the reason why ATVI exists, and this is our goal in life. We want to achieve a harmonization of addressable TV, and in particular for dynamic ad substitution, and we want to facilitate for a fast market adoption of the TA standards. The company has been founded in Germany, that has already been said, and that's correct, but we do have pan-European ambitions. So we want to address all European broadcasters, and we want to partner with all CEMs that sell devices in the European market. And this is because our approach is in its core B2B enablement. And this slide, which looks a little complex, but which is quite well suited to explain the general idea and concept behind ATVI, can be used to explain it. Let me start from the left and then go to the right. So ATVI has built what we call the ATVI validation tool. This is a tool that is provided to our partnering CEMs so that they can check their TA implementations and the compliance of their devices in the lab. TV models that then become certification candidates are tested and eventually certified by ATVI. And the successful certification leads to listing of devices on what we call the ATVI verified list. So this verified list is then provided to broadcasters on the other end so that they know which devices reliably work. And this is the way how we want to create unified reach, and the verified list is the key for broadcasters to access it. Let's also say some words about the contractual setup. So again, on the left-hand side, we have the certification agreements with the manufacturers, which enables them to issue certification requests. And on the right-hand side, we have the license agreements with broadcasters, because we are selling the licenses to what we call the licensed broadcasters. And maybe one important point also to mention, that's the dotted line on the bottom. ATVI is not involved in any enabling agreement that may be required between CEMs and broadcasters. So we focus on the technology and not on the commercial aspects. So let's have a closer look on what we offer to the CEMs in detail. There are, of course, documentation. So the two main documents to mention is our technical requirements document and our certification requirements document. The first one is basically the guiding document, and it refers to the HbbTV core specification, but also to TA and TA specification from HbbTV and from DVB. And the second one, the CRs, that's really our precise description of the certification criteria that ATVI applies, and it defines the rules of our certification regime. And then secondly, we have the ATVI validation tool, which has been mentioned earlier. So that's really the tool that we use for checking the TA compliance of devices. And just as a side note, it has been developed with the help of Kineton. So regards to Italy at this point. And the validation tool, it consists of transport streams of a reference application, and it also comes with the substitution content and the required backend systems, which are all in the cloud, so that no test harness is needed in the labs for testing. All this comes for free for our partnering CEMs, and not only for them, it is also possible to use the tool for sock makers, browser vendors, OS developers, if they are willing to enter into a access agreement with us. So then let's have a detailed look on the broadcaster side. As I've said before, our main product is the ATVI verified list, and this verified list is for our licensed broadcasters, and it will be customized for the markets where they are active. So it's a per country insight on the certified devices, and ATVI maintains this list for the broadcasters. This means we not only add newly certified devices, but we also ensure that the listed devices remain functional. So, for example, in case of firmware updates, we double check. And then our LBs, how we call them, the licensed broadcasters, also receive access to the source code of the reference application. So they have a short time to market with their own DAS solutions, and they can maximize the reach when targeting the devices in the field. Further, we have created a knowledge base with guidelines for broadcasters who want to deploy their own TA-based DAS solutions. And not to be forgotten, we also provide to them the relevant business information, like, for example, reach forecasts for the TV models that have been certified and contacts to the CEMs if they want to enter into enabling agreements. With this, I'm already at the end and want to summarize quickly what I've explained today. So ATVI's mission is to thrive the technical harmonization of addressable TV with a focus on dynamic ad substitution in linear broadcast TV. ATVI is loyal to the open standards, and we check the TA compliance of TV sets by testing and certifying against the certification requirements we defined. For this, ATVI has built the ATVI validation tool that is offered for free to partnering manufacturers and also to other industry players. The devices we certified are put on a verified list, which ATVI then provides to broadcasters that become licensees. And so the licensed broadcasters can rely on the unified reach provided by ATVI when targeting real devices in the field with their own ATV services. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these insights on ATVI and your mission. And don't forget, there's the opportunity for you to submit questions to the speakers, and this can simply be done by using the little toolbox you see with the question mark on it. Press that button and submit us your questions. We're staying in Germany, going over to Munich, where Hannes is waiting for us to give us some additional information on the technical side of things. Welcome, Johannes. We're keen on hearing from you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Johannes Schmidt, CEO of MRT Experts. And I'll like to give you an even more technical, detailed view on what you need to do ad insertion for you as a broadcaster. As a few facts about us: we were founded in 2001. We've been doing interactive TV since the beginning of our company, and we've been supporting HbbTV since the beginning of HbbTV and even before that. We also, additionally, next to the HbbTV and interactive TV, we also have products for broadcasters like HbbTV Playout, an SI, PSI management system, a few analysis tools, and compliance recording tools. But now regarding the targeted advertising problem, as Peter already mentioned before we had a rather inaccurate timing that caused us to require pretty large takeoff and landing zones during an ad break, because we had this simple timing which is caused by StreamEvent processing delays, timing inaccuracies on the device, diverse network delays. Maybe DVB-S has a different delay than DVB-T, and then also the video decoding delay on the TV itself. When which frame is displayed, you can't really tell. It differs from TV to TV, and that's why the TA API Peter talked about earlier already came in and allows us to do this frame accurate cutting between broadband and broadcast. And this requires a timeline. It's using old timestamps cannot be done for frame accurate cutting. So you require a timeline, and that's what I want to talk about. We need this timeline to synchronize events like the target advertising events with the video. There are two reference timelines we can use on HbbTV. The first one is the PCR, the program clock reference, and then there's a new player on the market, let's call it like this, which is TEMI timeline. And in my point of view, the TEMI timeline has a lot of more possibilities, and PCR also won't survive a remuxing. So if someone is remuxing your content, you'll have a new PCR and all the timing won't work anymore. So that's why we usually recommend a TEMI timeline. And the events usually originate from SCTE 35 events, which cannot be decoded directly by the TVs, and they need to get converted to HbbTV compatible stream events, which then can be received by the HbbTV application. So that's what our TEMI stream event generator is doing. It generates a TEMI timeline. The TEMI timeline, by the way, contains an NTP timestamp for easy reference for everything you would like to synchronize in your app. So it's maybe not even just the target advertising market, but maybe you also want to synchronize second screen audio or video to the broadcast video. There are many things why you would need such a TEMI timeline. And it also generates the stream events from the SCTE 35 according to a Etsy spec. And both of them are optional. So you can either say, I just want to have the timeline, or I just want to have the stream events, but usually you would say, I'd like to have them all. Now, how is the whole setup system set up? Basically, you get the PCR reference from your final multiplexer or from your encoder. So that's an input we need to correctly generate the timeline. And we also need to connect to an NTP, network time protocol, or a network time server to get the exact network time or current time we want to insert into your broadcast. And on the output side, you basically have one transport stream containing two pits or two elementary stream. The first is the TEMI timeline, and the second is the stream events, which then are going into your application or into the multiplexer and then into your application, and that allows you to do frame accurate cutting of ads from broadcast to broadband and back. So that's the whole system architecture. So input and output in one slide for you to look at again. And that's basically it. Yeah, the benefits of the system, it allows an easy plug and play integration. You just add the system, you connect it correctly, and then you have a TEMI timeline and you have your stream events. It's generating easy timestamps you can reference in your application, and it has that integrated stream event generation. And it's made for ATVI, by the way. So it's a solution if you want to go down the ATVI approach presented by Peter before me. And that's it. So thank you very much for your interest, and back to Jörn.
Thank you for these insights. This was a real deep technical dive, and I'm not sure I understood all of it. I'm not a technician, but there's certainly viewers out there who are very interested in these things that are usually hidden. And as I'm always saying, the best technology is invisible, because it becomes visible. If it becomes visible, there's a problem usually. So this was a deep dive into all the things you're not supposed to see that's going on in the background while you're watching advertising that's been replaced. let's go to our final speaker. Let's go to Italy, to Milan, where Andrea is waiting for us with an update on the new things Publitalia AT, a subsidiary of Mediaset Group, is working on, and that includes the exclusive announcement of a new product that you've just launched in the market. So we're very keen on hearing from you, Andrea. Welcome. Let's just switch on your audio. By the way, submit your questions. We've got already, I think, 3 or 4 questions that have arrived. Use the little button with the question mark on it and submit them to us, and we're happy to discuss them at the end of this live session. So Andrea, something seems to not be working with your sound. You're still muted. Maybe we can switch that on from
All
the
right.
organizer. Yeah,
Yeah.
now it's working.
Hi, Jorn. I saw that I was muted
Thank you.
by the organizer. Thank you very much
Okay, it's
for having me.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure for me to be here, exceptionally after a big launch yesterday. So my update is overall on the addressable TV offering in the market, with some, of course, sales house angle and business angle rather than technical. So just a quick, let's say, show off the number to set the stage. Connected TV in Italy, and in particular HbbTV, is reaching nearly 83% of connected TV set. So out of a total TV devices available in country, 42 million, 17.3 are connected. We reach 14.3 out of them. This is because we select devices based on compatibility with our own standard and requirement of quality, accuracy. So we have a white list that is enabling not all the devices that are available in countries. And in terms of household, we have roughly 24 million household. 11 are connected, and again, 83% we reach them. 9.6 household in the Italian market. How these 14.3 devices are, let's say, distributed into the Italian geography. We see very strong region, Lombardy, but also in South we have quite strong regions around Rome, of course. Our connected TV offering is packaged with connected TV, HbbTV, native apps. We sell basically everything bundled together. We don't go to market selling HbbTV. We don't go to market selling HbbTV-TA. So as it was rightfully pointed before, these things are invisible for the user and maybe also invisible for the advertiser that invests money. Of course, the angle is to have the massive reach, as much reach as possible into the market. TA was the most recent update to the offering. We were announcing the live at HbbTV Symposium last year in November. By the way, the addressable TV offering started here in 2017, so it's now 6 years. Started with legacy display banner, and then moved, of course, into the most refined linear addressable with the TA profile to specification, which is very fast. So right now we have a decent amount of traffic into the TA. This is just a snapshot of our linear addressable product. So we see already quite a few, let's say, HbbTV-TA traffic live in country. And here is the reach of video linear addressable in terms of devices. So we've seen November and December was, let's say, gently ramping up the TA, and then it started to scale in the first month of 2024 with big releases of, let's say, OTN, so over the network updates into manufacturer around April this year. So we see in the light blue the TA-enabled TVs in country, in the Italian market. And then we see in the dark blue our total reach of devices, which went from 2.5 million to almost 4 million. So that is how we give advertiser more volume, thanks to the accuracy and thanks to, let's say, devices that before were not compatible to the whitelist, and now they are into the whitelist, so our advertiser can reach them with advertising campaign. Then here is like the business angle. So basically, a part of reach and technology. What else into let's say a commercial success of an advertising product? The third element is the demand, the access to the inventory. So how easy it is for an advertiser to buy an HbbTV ad or to buy an HbbTV-TA ad, and usually before the launch of this platform, let's say the offering of this kind of format, I would not say is niche, but is obviously powered by very, let's say, specific and trained salespeople that are able to, let's say, put in evidence all the advantages of buying this kind of ads, right? We decided to launch Mediaset Ad Manager. The launch was public yesterday, and it's a platform for any demand, in particular medium-sized demand, so medium-sized client, to access our inventory with a self-service platform. So in this way, there is not the need of, let's say, specialized guy talking about, let's say, HbbTV, standard, TA, accuracy. It's just a beautiful platform where you plan with different steps. So you have a campaign detail, you choose your target, you choose your product, you see the availability and cost right from the ad servers, and then you can review and confirm. I see the image is not the best with the full screen, but hopefully you will receive in chat a link of the platform, which is public, and there is a website with a lot of marketing collateral talking about how to access the platform. Access to the inventory, but also access to real-time data out of advertising campaigns. So again, after an HbbTV campaign, or in general, a connected TV campaign is live, then we had actually people pulling reports, sending reports to client, the availability of unique devices, delivery for each geo of the country, impression, view-through rate, this kind of KPI, even with linear addressable served on an HbbTV-TA device, it's key. So fast access to data, fast access to insight, as if it was a digital campaign planned on with the likes of the big digital players, right? So no matter the technology there is behind the scene, but the ease of use and also the look and feel of the platform must be, let's say, speaking the language of the platforms, right? Of the platforms that are out there already. So the platform is very young. So as I said, it was launched yesterday, but we are pushing very hard on marketing, and we hope a bright future for this platform. I will be happy to receive any question, and over to you, Jorn.
Thank you very much for these insights and the new platform you've just launched. So good luck with that. And let's get started now with the questions that you've been submitting, and there are quite a few. So I think we've got more than enough now, as you can see from the screen, and we're very happy to discuss all these issues with you now. Let's get started with the first question that's come in for Ophélie. The viewer says, as you presented, HbbTV is not the only solution for TA. I would like to hear your perspective why HbbTV should be used in TA.
So on that, I would say also based on what I showed in the presentation, it really depends on the strategy of the broadcasters. But the two main reasons I would say are reach and the control over commercial and technical capabilities. So for example, if we look at reach, the main alternative to HbbTV when it comes to addressable TV would be on set-top boxes and an operator's ecosystem. The problem with that is it's usually quite fragmented. So outside of specific market cases, for example, in the UK, where Sky took over the addressable TV landscape very early on with AdSmart, and they launched with also Virgin Media, so it created sort of a significant footprint. It's still rather small when we compare it to the reach of smart TV in the country and what YouView can also expect to reach. It's a similar case in France, even if we have 4 of the main telcos providing sort of a harmonized ecosystem for addressable TV altogether. There are still significant actors missing. So obviously the DTT reach is not addressable at the moment. And on top of that, Canal Plus is also not on board with the ATV landscape from a distribution perspective. So the reach is really something that HbbTV can help build and scale way larger than on individual operators' ecosystem. And the other main advantage, I would say, the main benefit for broadcasters will be the control on commercial and technical aspects, because the alternative on set-top boxes requires you to do revenue sharing with the set-top box operators, since they are actually providing their solution on their ecosystem. You're also relying on them to sort of set up the targetable segments, etc. So the fact that you can use an open standard like HbbTV to create your own technical solution and then to commercialize it on your own without any partner to take a piece of the revenue is probably the main reason why broadcasters are going for that. And I guess it's a significant advantage for AdSales House, but maybe other speakers can step in on that.
Thank you for that. And not to forget, of course, that Ophélie is holding a keynote at the upcoming HbbTV Symposium and Awards on the 14th and 15th of November in London. More on that after the Q&A, and more details we'll certainly hear in your keynote at this event. Does anyone want to quickly respond to that question? Otherwise, we'll move on to the one that's directly targeted to Peter. So Peter, this next one is for you. At least in the beginning, the viewer says, I think both ATVI compliant and non-compliant TV sets exist in the market. In this circumstance, how can broadcasters deploy their targeted advertising? Do they need to implement their apps to identify whether a TV is compliant or non-compliant?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually 2 questions at least. So lots of aspects in it. So I would say number one, of course, the reach of the TA standard, HbbTV-TA standard, is just growing. Yeah, and that's what we want to facilitate for what I said. So it is of course a proof that currently it is not the case that every HbbTV receiver is also TA compliant. So I think if you have launched a solution like, for example, colleagues from Mediaset, which has just been presented, or if you want to do it today, you would still need to work with non-TA devices. And the answer is you will not get around implementing some kind of allow or deny listing. Yeah, so you must test devices, and you must ensure that the devices you want to target fit with the takeoff and landing zones that you provide in your linear program stream. And that's, I mean, that's basically the point, that this is, and these are lots of efforts. That's a complicated thing to do. And this is, I'm convinced, one of the reasons why the existing solutions do not really scale. Because you have that continuing testing demand, and you have to deal with lots of legacy. And the idea of ATVI is to this time to do it right, to really establish a harmonized technical reach in the starting from this year, where we have certified the first devices, continuing next year and the years to come. And I'm pretty convinced that next year this situation will look very different. So TA will be more widely established, and it will be a thing. Yeah, it will be more relevant. I mean, we have seen this nice drawing from Mediaset as well, where they have shown how many ad impressions generated or actually executed on TA devices and how many on traditional HBB devices, TV devices. I think that will look much differently next year. And how can I identify if a TV set is compliant or not? Well, that's ATVI certification, and that's the ATVI verified list. So if you want to know which devices really work, become as a broadcaster, become a licensee, and you will learn. And this is for the benefit, that's to say, I mean, this is for the benefit to have all the hassle yourself. Yeah. And this is for the benefit of creating this harmonized technical reach across Europe and not everybody on its own.
So making market players' lives easier through the solutions you're offering. The next questions are very technical. Don't know if the next one is for Peter or Johannes or both of you. So the viewer asks, what are the effective tools to measure switch time during transition between broadcast to broadband or broadband to broadcast?
Yeah, also very, I would take it because that's our daily business, so to say. I mean, it brings me back to that point again, that if you want, I mean, the dynamic ad substitution is a very demanding use case, yeah, for the device, and also once you have implemented it, for the tester to check whether the device has done it right. And it is described rather simply, but I mean, we want to achieve frame accurate ad substitution, which means we have to check whether the substitution was frame accurate. So you will not get around checking whether the substitution was frame accurate, and this is done by checking frame by frame. So there are solutions out there that I know of that are built in a clever way so that you can automate this to some, at least to some extent. We are convinced that this is also the way to make any testing solution scale. However, there will always be the point where you have to, where just a human has to double check maybe, yeah, on the results. And let's also not forget that it's not only about the frames, it's also about the audio, which makes the thing even more complex. So when did our broadcast video end? When did the advertising audio start? Which frame have I seen at that very moment? So this is a very complex thing to do it very often, to check the reliability. I mean, if you want to, you are not just test only once. You want to test on one device multiple times to be sure that it really works. Yeah? So that's creating lots of efforts, and that's another reason why it makes sense from a broadcaster perspective to bundle the strength in ATVI and to let us take care of this while you can do the business and sell advertising.
Okay, thanks for that. And the next one is directed to Johannes. How does your system work in an environment when remultiplexing is widely used? Do all the remultiplexing broadcasters need to install your system? Are MIT experts TEMI SE compatible with ATVI certified devices by default? Actually,
Okay.
three questions in one.
That's also more than one question in one paragraph, but I'll try to answer them all. So basically, a TEMI timeline should be compatible with remultiplexing because it contains reference to the audio and the video timeline, and if you re-encode it, you can do it in a way that that keeps the TEMI timeline. But of course, there are some multiplexers out there which do not regard any TEMI timeline. It's basically the same problem for teletext. also has a timeline that needs to be kept when remultiplexing. So I can't really answer that question for each and every multiplexer. I can only say it's theoretically possible, but it needs to be checked. And of course, if the remultiplexer doesn't do it, they will probably need to reinstall also our system after the remux to have a TEMI timeline again. You don't really need it for the stream events because the stream events are not time critical and they just need to be passed through. But sometimes the stream event PID also gets lost during remultiplexing. You see, it's a bit of a complicated field. You need to do it right. And yes, our product should be compatible with the ATVI certified devices by default. And I guess the next question is also for me.
Also, the next
encoders?
two ones are probably for you. Just very briefly, because they're really,
Yeah.
really deep in the
Technical.
technology side of things.
Yeah. Also here, not really an answer. We didn't test any encoders here. We just have customers that have those encoders, and we never ran into any issues during the conversion from SCTE 104 to SCTE 35. That usually works fine. But on the other hand, you need to keep in mind what values you put into your SCTE 104 or 35 markers. They of course need to contain all the important information that needs to go out to the HbbTV-TA app, like how long is the break going to take, when should the replacement start, and so on, and some information for the ad server to serve the correct ads. TEMI PID usually uses around 10 kilobit. Yeah.
Okay, I think clear answer. Now let's go to a bit more of a global perspective again. Do all smart TVs support the HbbTV-TA specification? I think we've heard already that this is not the case, but I think the second part of this question is probably more interesting. Are there software upgrades available for existing reception devices in the market? Maybe one for Peter.
Yeah, retrofitting is of course an interesting thing. I mean, we have seen platforms even from this year and last year, which are quite capable, where I would say it's not impossible that this happens. But generally speaking, I mean, manufacturers are always forward-looking when they invest efforts in new products rather than in already sold TVs.
So probably have to ask the manufacturers.
Yeah, ask the manufacturers. But I mean, let me maybe jump on a point that I presented just some minutes ago during my presentation. It's a demanding use case. So you cannot expect that you can easily retrofit an existing installed base. Yeah, because it goes down to the SoC, it goes down to the drivers, to the adjustments on the browser, blah, blah. A lot of things in the whole stack need to be touched in order to make it work. Yeah, and that's why retrofitting is not per se impossible, but I would not expect to see it on a large scale.
Okay, I think that is a clear answer and not unexpected. Next one to Johannes. I think both of them maybe just very briefly touching them. Do you need, or did you need to send heartbeats of stream events to keep them alive from monitoring systems? And the next one, do you have examples of system configurations with separate redundancy switching for encoders and multiplexers PC are not synced between multiplexers? Very technical again.
The first question, yes, we send heartbeats, of course, otherwise the monitoring system go off. And if you could scroll up a little bit, at least I can't see the next question on your slide. Or at least if you can't scroll up,
Let me see.
Björn, you
Oh,
you can maybe just mention it one more time.
is that there now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now I'm a little bit lost. To Johannes, do you have examples?
Do you have examples of system configurations with separate redundancy switching for encoders and multiplexers, PCRs not synced between multiplexers?
Yeah, so it basically automatically happens if you connect our system to your final multiplexer, and if you do the switch there, our system will automatically detect that you did a switch and adapt to the new stream coming from the other encoder.
Okay. Two more questions. One from Mediaset for Andrea. Does the Mediaset Ad Manager only offer inventory for HbbTV or all digital outlets of Mediaset?
Thanks for the question. It's currently connected TV offering, so HbbTV and also CTV. At the moment, we offer display banner, but there is the ambition to scale, obviously, even on linear addressables, so to make available all format of the advertising suite into the platform, and also on different screens, so even on mobiles, web, so to give actually full coverage of offering and also type of devices. At the moment, connected TV, mix of apps and HbbTV.
Okay. Last one refers to Dolby Atmos, the new surround system standard. Is there any news towards the audio codec? I suppose this is with reference to TA, HbbTV-TA. Anybody know anything about that? Well, we'll leave that open. And anything, there are new questions coming in, but looking at the time, I think I'll just read out the statement, which is a nice thing at the end of this part of the webinar. It says a statement from Yotta Media Labs, by the way. Biggest elephant in the room is for CEs to open up HbbTV-TA with no charge. In a declining linear viewing, this will help broadcasters deploy targeted advertising and keep linear alive at least for a bit longer. Nice statement at the end, and that comes to my concluding slide. We've already mentioned the HbbTV Symposium and Awards taking place in London on the 14th and 15th of November. Make sure you buy your tickets because there is the early bird period running until the 15th of October, offering the tickets with a discount both to HbbTV members and non-members. And also we've still got the awards open for entries, the HbbTV awards, the well, as we're always saying, the Connect TV industry's most respected and most prestigious award, and it's a free competition. So submit your entries for applications, services, and more information on that and how to take part in the contest is available on the HbbTV website, www.hbbtv.org. You'll also find there information on the upcoming symposium, and all of the speakers will be in London and happy to connect with you. Further, the webinar series is continuing. We're looking for your suggestions for topics, and because this is for you, for the market and the community, currently preparing a webinar on DRM and HbbTV. And so if you've got further ideas or want to participate in that one, please let us know through the email address webinar@hbbtv.org. And also to keep up to date with everything that's currently and new running in the HbbTV community, you might take a look at the X and LinkedIn communities. Thank you very much for being part of this webinar. As usual, the presentations will be made available on the HbbTV website, and also there'll be a YouTube recording of this session. And thank you once again to the speakers and your great insights. We certainly look forward to seeing you all in London. That includes
Thank
you,
you,
the
Jörn.
speakers, and of course you, the audience who watched this live. And thank you very much once again, and take care, good luck, see you soon, and see you in London, of course. Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.